Jamil, thank you very much. Thanks for everyone being here today, but everyone I think should give a big thank you to Jamil because he is volunteering to be here and help you today. So I really want to thank him. All right. I'm gonna try to now share my screen. That's always the most fun part of Zoom where like, did I get this right? And can you see it? So we got it going right here. And boom, screen two. All right. Hopefully everyone can see my presentation. You want to give me a shout out in the chat to make sure you can see it all right? Or just yell at me if you can't. All right, get unstuck, live group coaching. So what are we doing today? We're going to try to do something a little different to really try to serve you today, okay? So this is what marketing is, right? This is what business is. This is what being an entrepreneur is. Sometimes we all get stuck, don't we, right? I mean, several times a day sometimes, a few times a month. And so the goal here today is, yes, we're going to give you some bigger ideas, but there's probably something everyone right now today on this webinar, you're just stuck in something, right? You can't get your emails going on. You can't get responses to them. You can't get partners for your business. You can't get customers to sign up for your loyalty program, whatever it is. You're probably stuck somewhere right now. And I want that to be in your head front and center. If you got a pad of paper, I want you to write it down in front of you. Because when we go through the stuff today, I want you to think of the place you're stuck and write down ideas to move past that, right? Because what I'm going to do is we had real people send in real challenges and we're going to work through them. And I can't promise I'm going to solve all of your business problems today because I will not. But my hope is this will be a valuable hour or two today. If there's one place where you're stuck, oh, you got a new idea. You found something new to try to move things on, okay? We're going to do what we call the universal in the particular. You might have heard this before if you're a literary fan. I'm a writer myself, a marketing writer, a copywriter, but I love all writing. And James Joyce, very classic, famous writer, known for writing about Dublin, Ulysses, famous book, right? And you can see on the screen what he said about it. But the most important thing he said, in the particular, is contained the universal, right? When he wrote about Dublin, he wasn't just writing about Dublin. What was he writing about? He was writing about the world. He was writing about what it's like to be a human being, to have relationships, all of these things. And he chose Dublin to do it. So when I talk about the universal and the particular, I could talk very broadly about marketing and business ideas with you today, and you would hear some buzzwords, but it would wash over you. You wouldn't walk away with anything. I wouldn't get you unstuck. So that's why we're looking at real examples. And when we look at each one of these real examples, yes, it's about that person that wrote in to help solve that problem. But what I'm going to show is a bigger methodology or process by which we can solve it. So you can use that methodology for yourself, but it's with a real example. So it's grounded. It's not up here. It's right here where every entrepreneur can get some help. Why should you listen to me? Okay, that's a really good question. Jamil said some nice stuff about me. I'm doing this for about 26 years now. I've been a copywriter, been a consultant, marketing Sherpa now, Mech Labs AI. With Marketing Sherpa, I write case studies. I interview marketers on the How I Made a Marketing podcast. So these are not just my experiences and my ideas. This is from talking to well over 1,000 marketers, big companies, small companies, entrepreneurs, getting all that collected wisdom. Also, as you can see on the slide, I'm an all-around swell guy. So you want to listen to me and you want to hear more from me, right? So that's a great example, that claim. That's a very clear claim on the side. You can make any marketing claim you want. I'm making that claim now. So in the next hour, by my actions, right? I have to prove that to you that I am an actual all-around swell guy, or it's a claim you're going to dismiss. And that's what we do in marketing, right? Also, the organization itself, I work for a company called Mech Labs AI. It is the parent organization of Marketing Sherpa, Marketing Experiments, Mech Labs Institute, these publishers. And Mech Labs AI has patented methodologies from all the experiments it's run. So when I'm looking at your challenges, I'm able to bring both of these things to bear on them. Mech Labs AI, and you'll see I'll use that as a kind of shortcut cheat sheet, and all of the case studies we've done. So that's where the information you're going to see is. All right, let's jump into the first person that's stuck. I got this. If everyone saw the invite, you could email me, say, here's where I'm stuck, and then we'll kind of walk through it. This first one is from Roberto Aroldi, the president of Alva. He was stuck with his company, but he specifically sent his sales sheets, and you can look at some of those sales sheets on there. Also, by the way, feel free to use the chat. Share also what you think people can do to improve, what's working well, whatever's going on there. As Jamil mentioned, you can use the Q&A at any point to ask some questions. So we're serving everyone on the call today. But here we go. Here's one thing that, here's some of the sales sheets from Roberto. He's got this patented touchless invisible switch. And I'm going to use something called the Micro Yes architecture to help them with the sales. And again, this micro yes architecture is something that can help all of you. Sometimes I'm going to use terms like that and they're going to sound kind of weird or scary or like, I would never know how to do that. But we're going to break it down, make it super simple for you so you understand it. So here are two of the sales sheets he sent over. You can take a look yourself. Here are two more. Touchless and visible switch. It's got a bunch of images and a bunch of different features. You might have sales sheets like this. You might have a web page like this, or you're sending out emails like this. This is a common way to try to communicate, right? So before I jump in and show how we can improve, I always want to say, hey, here are some things that are working, right? I mean, everything we're doing, right? Some things are working, some things aren't, and we're trying to find that balance, right? So some things that I do see that he's doing well, and maybe you can learn from, is he's clear on what the product is. So you would be surprised how many times there are signs or ads or websites or all sorts of things where it's not even clear what the product is or what they're selling. Also, he does have some use cases in there. It's a little hard to follow, but you can see, okay, this product can do these certain things. This may be more of the company itself than the actual communication, but there's a patent that has exclusivity and credibility right way. Exclusivity and credibility are very powerful for marketing. But where can we improve this? And this is something, again, where when you look at where you're stuck with your marketing, your emails, whatever, you can look at this as well. Does this really tap into a key customer pain point? Right. So if we're looking at this as a company, if we're looking at this as Alva, hey, we're pretty happy with it, right? Look, we've got the switch. For actually human signature, it's got this patent, it's got all these things, right? But this is our biggest challenge. What I'm going to try to challenge you today to do is not look at things through the lens of the hat you're wearing now. You're the CEO, the entrepreneur, the founder, whatever that might be, right? Because we're going to look at our stuff, we're going to love it, right? It's like when we look at our kids, when they bring home their artwork, their sloppy artwork at 5 years old, we're like, oh, that kid is amazing, right? That's not how the world's going to see it. And that's not how customers see things. And that's not how you see it as a customer. So what I'm going to try to do with you is, okay, let's look at this as a customer now, right? If I'm a customer, this doesn't really tap into some key customer pain point. Doesn't really shout out to me from all the thousands of messages I'm getting. So what do? We want to tap into a key customer pain point. You might have heard that term before. A lot of people have heard that term. In case you haven't, a pain point is a general idea. In marketing, there's really one of two things we can do. We can either accentuate the positive for our customers, or we can eliminate the negative. Accentuate the positive, help them meet a certain goal they have, eliminate the negative, help them meet some sort of pain they have. Here's one example, as I mentioned. We have a lot of case studies on Marketing Sherpa. It's free, marketingsherpa.com. Go there, search a lot of case studies, a lot of information, a lot of helpful information. And right here is a case study. You'll see everything I have, I share with you at the bottom of these links. There's a source link, so you can see the full article if you want, or the full piece of information. As I mentioned, I'll share these slides on my LinkedIn after this. This is just a basic example. I wanted to pull something from a manufacturer because they're essentially in this kind of same orbit as what we were looking at. And they emphasized a little more on their website that they were cheaper than China. This branding campaign, and they saw an increase of sales by 33%. You can see the two places they did on their website. Wasn't the only thing they did, but why did they do that, right? Because that was a key concern, right? And this homepage you're trying to communicate, that was a key concern that their core customer had, right? So they could say all the great things about Rodon Group, but sometimes when you have such a big concern, it's going to block hearing anything else. So they're able to say right away, look, if cost is a factor, we're actually even cheaper than China, right? That in itself is probably not enough to get someone to buy, but understanding like, oh, they can beat China pricing and they've got these other things I want, that taps into the pain point and gets people to want to raise their hands. All right, so now let's see how you can do that and how you can communicate that through something like the sales flyer or something else with your copy. This is what we call the micro yes architecture. And I'm going to break it down for you. So when you see this, this is just high level. So don't worry too much when you see this, right? But basically, this is a set of yeses that someone has to go through in their head when they go through a journey with you. And that journey could be reading a sales flyer. It could be looking at a landing page. It could be something small like that. Or it could be the entire customer journey they go on from not even knowing about your potential solution or industry to becoming your customer. What are the series of yeses they have to say? We're going to walk through these. This comes from the MEC 100 course. We teach mechlabs.com/course. It's totally free. And you can learn about all of them. But I'm going to walk through them with you, right? a central component of those yeses is the value proposition, is the value proposition of your offer. If you've heard me talk on some SCORE webinars before, I have talked about the value proposition, but those are some of those things we're trying to answer. And the value proposition is the answer to the question, if I'm your ideal customer, why should I buy from you instead of any of your competitors? So now let's take a look. And again, what I'm trying to do is give you a lens. We're going to look at this sales flyer through that lens. I just picked one of them. But you should do the same thing with whatever marketing, with whatever communication you're trying to get out with your business. Look at it through this micro yes lens. Ask these questions. So what I did, I got to admit, in preparing for this webinar, I want to give some very specific information to everyone. I'm also busy. You're busy. As a shortcut, I use MechLabs AI a lot. That's our AI. And so for any time I use MechLabs AI, you can see in the source, I share the exact chats with you. You can go into the link, you can click, you can see the full conversation yourself. I'm only taking, a small bit, but I gave this to MechLabs AI and I said, hey, walk through and tell me what you think, the micro yes questions the customer might be asking going through this sales flyer, right? And these aren't always perfect. That's how AI is. To me, AI gets you about 80% there, right? Very quickly, which is great. It's not perfect, but this will get us in the ballpark and give us a sense. So that first micro yes attention, the first micro yes you need to earn from someone, you need to capture their attention, right? That's what we have a headline for. That's what we have different things for. You have to, until you capture their attention, it doesn't matter what you have in there, right? So right now, they're trying to capture the attention with just touchless and visible switch. And you can see someone might be asking, right? We're trying to get in our customer's mind. What makes us really stand out, right? So the gap we'll have, and this is also where kind of AIs will be helpful to me, is I am not the ideal customer for this product, right? So there could be some things I may be a little off on. This is where I can help because it can, assume other kind of personas. But I'm guessing a touchless and visible switch by itself, that's probably a somewhat common thing in that industry. That itself is not going to grab attention, okay? So after attention, then you need to engage them. You need to pull them in, right? What might the customer be asking? Human signature, right? Does it really react only to me? Is it going to be triggered by random movements? Just saying reacting only to the human signature doesn't really, convince anyone on that. Then that third micro yes, understanding, right? Do they understand it? Do they even know what it means to say reacts only to the human signature, right? Think about the words and the phrases that you're using. Are they real world? Are they benefit focused? Often we see that the brand, the company is so used to its product, it uses words that the customer doesn't even know or understand. I remember we did a famous test once with a kidney dialysis company. And I feel like they were using whatever the word was, nephrology or whatever the word is for kidney stuff. And it wasn't that the customer wasn't, let's say, sold on it. The customer just didn't even understand. The customer wasn't using that terminology. They were using kidney disease. So having those right words. And one thing that really helps, so AI can help you play around with it, but also just getting anywhere the customer is, going into their forums, reading their reviews, going to their events, and listen for words. I'm a writer. So I'm a wordsmith, so I really care about those words. But if you're going to be engaged in your marketing or communicating about your business at all, hear the words and how they speak. Would they know when they say human signature or would they say something else? Belief, right? Yes, they need to understand it, but they need to believe it too, right? That's why I say in the beginning, in my bio, it says, I'm an all-around swell guy. Does that make me an all-around swell guy? No, that's a claim. I've got to get you to believe it, right? And there's the belief here, right? This is what the customer's asking. Can I really trust this device? Right? Is it really going to distinguish between humans and other objects? Desire, right? So you can understand it, believe it, but do you really want it? Why does the person want it, right? So the target customer for this might be asking, how will it improve my safety or enhance my current setup, right? What goals are they going after? Uniqueness. So it could meet all those three things we talked about. But if there are many, many other places to get this, if it's not unique in some way, if they can get it everywhere, then why would they want to get it from you, right? What sets this switch apart? Affirmation. So then we're getting into, okay, someone believes. Now, are there verifiable indicators of quality and performance, right? So they have the patent there. That's a helpful thing. But they really, when you're moving people now from this sales sheet to the next step, right, they really have to affirm yes, this is going to work for me. And then finally, completion. They need to take a completion action, right? Once I'm convinced, what are the next steps? And something very interesting here is there isn't really a call to action, right? So when we are having these conversations, because that's what they are, they're conversations, make no mistake, on a sales sheet, on a landing page, in an email, in an ad, anywhere you're doing this, Don't forget, this should replicate a human conversation. If you go back to the beginning of advertising, that's what the first newspaper ads were doing. That's what we're doing on websites. That's what we're doing in emails and all social media and all of this, right? How were sales conducted in the past? It used to just be a conversation back and forth, one to one, a human conversation, right? And you need to replicate that in your sales work. So there is really no call to action here. There's just information, but they're not engaging the person at all. Just having a phone number, an email address, and a website. I don't even know what you want me to do. So the goal here to get them to actually complete, you're not actually saying some next steps, right? All right. So now you might say, okay, I have these challenges. How am I going to address them? So I took all this information, as I mentioned, I uploaded it up to the Marketing Genius and MechLabs AI, and it came back to me with something I can use to refine my value proposition using the clear thinking protocol. So I'm giving that to you here. Again, I'm going to share all these slides with you so you can go through this. If you're facing a similar challenge, what I like to do, I like to give these types of exercises because it's one thing to say, okay, we've raised the problem. You've looked at your marketing, any communication you're trying to do, a letter to investors, whatever it is, wherever you're stuck. And now you're saying, okay, I get the general sense I have to change it. I don't know what to say now. So here's simple 5 steps you can go through. You can be writing it down right now for yourself. You can save this and do it later, right? So first, what do you want to do? Restate the core message, whatever your message is, right? Forget about what you've got there now. How would you talk about the primary benefits your product offers, right? What someone's getting for it, using your own words, right? So in this example, right, a key idea that you'd want every potential customer to understand about your touchless invisible switch, right? So as an example, I didn't only have AI make this, I also then went back and had AI fill it out. Here's one example, right? So you see that this means, those are some good and nice important words. This means, so you starting with the touchless invisible switch, you're starting with whatever your product is, right? It's got that human signature. We said human signature. Do they even know what it means? This means it's breaking it down. Why does it really matter? What does your product do? What does it mean for the customer, right? What is that core message? All right, 2, analyze key benefits. So there's a very famous quote. It was by a Harvard business professor. I think it was Clay Christensen. And he said, nobody wants a 1/4-inch drill bit. They want a 1/4-inch hole in the wall. Anytime you're selling your product, make sure you're not selling what your product has. What is the benefit to the customer? And in that sales sheet before, we saw it was kind of mixed. I mean, sometimes it was a feature or benefit and it wasn't entirely clear, but some examples that it might be, right? Safety, hygiene, versatility. Why does an invisible touchless switch matter, right? It's some other contamination free, hands free operation, vandalism resistance, right? What are the benefits you're bringing? So here's some examples. Again, it filled it out itself. Boom, boom, boom. Hand safety, improved hygiene, increased security. What if you listed out your benefits? What would they be, and how would you describe them? Now, right? We don't start with the ad and try to sell someone, right? We start there with what's our core message or our benefits. Now, what are some approaches we can take? And the important thing I want you to see here is it's identifying target audiences. So when I talked about before is what could be pain point, something we can address. When we looked at all those different sales sheets, right? They just kind of had different facts and information. If I was in that target audience, I wouldn't know that it was meant for someone like me. Like a very first thing that a lot of us do when we're trying to grab the attention, when we as customers, they're trying to grab our attention, we're saying, is this meant for someone like me? Right? So you go out in the world and you see different offers every day, and you just make a split-second decision. And you're like, oh, maybe either whether I buy it or not, this could be for me, or oh no, that's not even meant for someone like me, right? So we want to get that right target audience and take the right approach for them. So AI came up with 2 examples of target audiences: automotive and fleet safety managers, right? Maybe they can use a touchless and invisible switch. Public transport and naval safety systems, right? Maybe they can, and it gave some approaches. And by not just having these kind of mixed messages with just different types of features, but by having it for a specific person, right? Then when that person sees it, like, oh, this is meant for me. If anyone knows the word, I love the word serendipity, right? That's what great marketing should feel like. It should feel like serendipity. Our CEO Flint McLaughlin said that before. I love that. Because if you've ever had serendipity in your life, when something comes along and just happens, you're like, oh, wow, it just feels so right. And you want your marketing, you want your products, you want your business to feel like that for customers. I'm sure you felt like that. You've had that feeling as a customer before. right? You just come across something, oh, wow, it was just meant for something like me. And here's an analogy I like to use. And I don't know if anyone of you will know this analogy. I'm a child of the 90s. If you're a child of the 90s, there was a band called Blind Melon, and they had a very famous song called No Rain. You can look this up and Google it after. And in the video for No Rain, there is a little girl dressed up as a bumblebee, and she's dancing around, and she dances around and does this little bumblebee dance. And she's just going around the town, and everyone is laughing at her, and she's very sad. And then one day she turns a corner, and she sees this field behind this gate, and it's all these people dressed up as bumblebees, and they're all dancing around. And just the look on her face is worth watching the whole video. And she just lights up and she goes and dances with her bumblebee people, and she's all happy. And that is what it should feel like, going from not being your customer to being your customer. Because whatever your product or service is and how you communicate it, it should feel like that's starting to be. I've just kind of been lost in the world before. I didn't know that. And then boom, oh my gosh, this was meant for me. This is just for someone like me. And you can't do that with a general sales fly that's got some general features and stuff. You need to do that by thinking of a specific target audience you can serve and understanding how you can serve them. Now, imagine the customer experience, right? Visualize a problem you're solving and how your product remedies it. It's before and after. And here we'll see the scenario here. But a thing I like to use is there is a very famous speech, a woman who teaches on speech is Nancy Duarte. And she teaches about all great speeches. They say how the world could be, how the world is, how the world could be, how the world is, right? And she breaks down Martin Luther King Jr.'s very famous speech, I have a dream, right? I have a dream that things could be like this, right? And that is how your communication should be as well, right? It should be like, hey, here's before you have this understanding, okay, hey, there's this commercial fleet. They've got all these safety bell alarms are prone to false activations, inanimate objects, right? All this stuff. But with our product or service, and this isn't hype. I'm not saying hype and make things up. This is before you're even putting it down in an ad. What are you really doing to improve their life, to improve their business, to improve whatever it is, right? What's the before and after? What is this scenario? And lastly, critique and refine, right? Always look through your responses, see, does it logically make sense? Is there a strong value proposition? And kind of broke that down there too, right? Don't just jump in and use it. So, okay. So we take this approach now. Let's say you've taken this approach, you've written this all down, you've got a good idea. Now let's take a look at a draft. Now, fair warning, when I say I'm a writer, everyone's going to look at my writing. You're going to look at my writing. You said, that's not very good. It's got these holes in it and all these things, right? So this is by far not perfect. What I wanted to do is get something, again, 80% there in the ballpark to give you an idea of how to use this methodology and to give this person an idea of something they can do for their product. Part of the challenge of being a writer and working with different companies and all different industries is you're not an expert in them. I am not an expert in them. What would really happen in working in, you are all experts in your company. So you would know, or you'd be able to work with the experts in your company, the subject matter experts, and you would know and have the correct information, right? So some of this, I will say, I'm just kind of making up. It might not be correct. And it would be more powerful if I had the correct information. If I was actually working with this company, first thing I would do is read all the patents, right? I mean, at MetClouds, we also have, as I mentioned, a patent methodology. When I've gone through, it's really understanding and communicating those patents. So, all right, so let's start. Micro ES1, attention, right? I'm not going to tell you this is the best headline in the world, but if you're giving out a sales flyer, would this catch someone's attention? Improve operational efficiency and safety with all the contactless switches. So I do not know yet when I see that headline that this will improve operational efficiency and safety, right? There's all those other things we talked about. I might not believe it yet, but I wrote this specifically for automotive and fleet safety managers, right? That was one of the target audiences the AI identified. So if we're correct, if I'm an automotive or fleet safety manager, this is the thing that gets me. It excites me. I can't sleep at night. I'm thinking about operational efficiency and safety, right? When I go on vacation with my family, I enjoy the Bahamas, but I'm like, oh, I wonder if this cruise ship has operational efficiency and safety, right? This is the thing that really matters to me. So if we tap in and get that right thing, this will catch their attention. You'll notice another thing I did here, and I do it in certain instances. I have what I call it the pre-header. Right? I've heard it called, I think, eyebrows too. The top, literally having those words, automotive and fleet safety managers, right? It's that blind melon moment. They're going through, they're in a big trade show, right? They get this flyer, it's got the sales slide, it's got this generic stuff on there. Oh, wait a minute. I'm a fleet safety manager. Oh, wait a minute. Improving operational efficiency. Yeah, I got to improve by 10% this quarter. My boss is going to be breathing down my neck. This is meant for someone like me, right? Okay. We answered that first question, attention. Let's break it down to the second one. Now, engagement. How do we get them from there? Okay. I'll give you a moment, but that's about it. You got to pull me in. The first thing I say is patented technology, right? That's a great, you might not have a patent. That's a great thing to use. What is your thing that people can right away and instantly be credible and they can understand and pull them in, right? I say it reacts only to the human signature, but what do I also say? I don't just say it only reacts to the human signature. I say, what's that benefit? It's going to reduce false activations from animals, packages, wind, right? So like, oh, okay, it does this thing and I get that benefit. Okay, well, I'm having these problems. Let me keep reading. All right, now we engage, we pulled them in, right? Understanding, right? So now we need them to actually understand what's going on here. I'm just making this information up. There should be something, similar in your industry where you can kind of give them an understanding of the problem you're trying to solve, why it's a very important and urgent and relevant problem to them. And you can see, I'm not going to read all the copy I put on there, but you can see the copy I used there where it says it brings them in with the problem and it says, gives them an understanding of what that is. Then it gets them to the belief, right? Okay, well, there's a problem. I understand this now, but why do I really think this will work? So here's how you know it will work. We're not just saying this contactless switch will work and not, work with non-human activations. It's been laboratory tested to avoid 99.94% of non-human activations, right? So that right there might not be everything to convince them, but if they got that sales sheet, hey, they might ask the sales guy, wait a minute, you laboratory tested this? Like I can prove this to my boss, right? Whatever it is, you need to add some credibility there. You can't just make the claim. Why should people believe you? Desire. Now, all right, I understand it. I believe you, but like, do I really want it? Well, hey, here are some specific things now with your fleet, right? If you're that fleet safety manager, you don't need safety netting anymore. You can haul around cargo without that. Wow, how much does that save you? How much easier is it for you, right? Uh, your engines will automatically shut off. You'll be saving fuel, right? Like, ooh, that's great. I gotta reduce my fuel budget, right? No false starts from wild animal intrusions. I don't know if that's a big thing. I had animals on my wall a few weeks ago here, so I was thinking of that. I have raccoons or something scratching my wall. Like, ooh, we had some rats get into our cars and start them. Oh, great, right? So you're building whatever that desire is for your product. What are those benefits? What are those things they're going to have, right? Then that uniqueness. Okay, so you say your product does all this, and this is where you should also be doing competitive analysis in the marketplace, seeing what the other options are, talking to your customers about that. But I mean, can I get this everywhere? Like, okay, I'm saying it's got these things you can get everywhere, but just because of our patented design, and only because of our patented design, it can be subsurface, right? So it's invisible, so it looks good for your brand folks, and there's reduced wear and tear. So yes, this other stuff is a common problem. Now we've pulled you in. Yes, you can get that, but this part you can't get anywhere else, right? Again, I'm making this stuff up, but trying to give you an idea of what would be something that, would unique. All right, affirmation. Now let's pull them in. So we got that. Remember those middle 4 questions with a value proposition. Now we're pulling them in. We're saying that reduced wear and tear, it's going to decrease your maintenance cost 27 to 45%, according to our field data. Okay. Sign me up. I'm a fleet safety manager. Wait, it's going to reduce by this much and you've told me everything else? Okay, what do I do now? Remember, what was our CTA before? What was our call to action before? Did we ever make an ask in the sales sheet before? We didn't. It just, they had a phone number, an email address, whatever. It's like, all right, I don't know. I mean, it's like putting your phone number up in, I don't know, wall somewhere. Like, someone calls you, someone doesn't. But we have actual completion. We have an actual call to action. To get an instant free amortization schedule you can present to your CMO, right? So what do? We gave them something very tangible they can get by reaching out. We're giving them an easy way to do it, right? They can just go to that website, alltheswitch.com/calculator, or they can just email us if they have any questions, right? We gave them a reason to reach out. We gave them an actual call to action. All right. So that's breaking it down. So what most want you to understand there, right? And hopefully this helps a specific person. Anything you're trying to communicate, that micro yes architecture is a great way to pull people through, to walk people through, to look at your work and say, hey, am I answering these questions? Am I going through what questions might my audience be asking with this? And then that checklist I gave you going through, like those are questions you can ask yourself to kind of help build it. and to ultimately write something better. So I hope that's a very tangible example. Also want to mention we got a ton of free resources too. If this, that's not the specific thing for you, marketingsherpa.com, free case studies, data articles. We got the How I Made It Marketing podcast, with in-depth conversations. We got a free digital marketing course there. That's where I took the micro yeses from. We've got the AI guilds you can join. And even this Thursday, we're going to have a free event to help you design your offer. So all that'll be in the deck. You go to my LinkedIn, you'll see it there. All right. I think I see Amanda Popwell on. If we can talk to Amanda, I don't know if Jamil is able to patch it all through and we can get her promoted and talk to her. That'll be great. And if we can't, we can't. And then Amanda, is that something we can try?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
All right, let's see, Amanda, if we can futuristic technology here. And the reason I specifically do this is I thank you for attending live. Thank you for attending live. You should get more value than those jokers that are just watching the replay. Amanda, are you there? Looks like you're muted, but I do see you now. How may we access?
Can you hear me now?
There we go, Amanda. Yeah, LaDonna asked, how may we access this information? So I'll paste in my LinkedIn again, as I mentioned. I'm going to post all these slides on my LinkedIn right after the session. The general information too you can get from Marketing Sherpa. So hi, Amanda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to see my name on your slides.
So I have here the email you sent me, highlighted some stuff, but probably would be better in your words. You want to tell us kind of what's going on?
So I started this little business about 3 months ago. And really where I'm stuck is, I started this business as a way to connect with my daughter, honestly, and to teach her entrepreneurship. And she's an artist, and she has created this brand of dragons. And I write the stories that go along with these dragons. And I think where I have become stuck is the story part. And I'm glad that you said that you're a writer, a wordsmith. The story part was kind of an afterthought. It was a way for me to keep my website up to date and with blog posting. And now that taking a step back from it, I'm wondering if I should be selling the brand of the characters and the stories that go along with them rather than the product, which is stickers and stationaries.
Very, very interesting, and I want to get into that. And one of the things that I really liked that you wrote me, and I bolded there. I'm trying to think backwards from where my audience is, and I have socials created, but I know they're slow growth with me being the do all right now. And I'm sure a lot of you that are watching now are also the do all. But that think backwards, that's the right approach Amanda's taking. That's something I was trying to show you with the previous group when we're looking at those, different sales pages. It's that think backwards to think where my audience is, what do they want, what can I do for them? All right, well, let's jump in, Amanda. I appreciate you sharing that. Let's take a look. So first of all, I want to say what's working. It's chattydragons.com if anybody wants to check it out. It's beautiful. I think so if your daughter made this, clearly there's a lot of creative talent here, which is great because we can tap that creative talent to marketing too. So what you see on the left, I took a screen cap of the website, and on the right, Amanda had shared a ad that they placed in a yearbook, right? So there's something here. We got something to work with. It's very beautiful. Let's see what we can do. The first thing I just want to throw out this cautionary for Amanda, for everyone watching. There's a few things to understand. There are laws and regulations regarding marketing towards children, as well as contests. Amanda had kind of a contest where you can submit a dragon. Also, she's got intellectual property here, and there are laws around protecting intellectual property. I am not a lawyer. Maybe sometimes Score has lawyers on, but these are things to, understand with a lawyer. I just want to flag that up. All right, so let's talk about this challenge, Amanda. So as you mentioned, you're thinking of that shift. What you're doing now is like largely selling stickers and stuff, right? And so a challenge with this when you're creating this is for any product, before a customer buys, much of the value is perceived value, right? So even in the previous product, the contactless, touchless switch, whatever, like before you actually use that product, you're just perceiving the value of it. That's the whole reason we have marketing, to help the perceived value be close to true value, right? However, with a tangible product like that contactless, touchless switch, right, there is clearly something more tangible about it where you understand I've had switches, I have switches, I can add another switch, right? What you have, Amanda, is essentially a creative IP-based product, right? And there are other ones like that. There's characters and stories, music, sound, like fictional universes. Other people might have it on. And so in this case, almost all of the value is just this perceived value, right? This can be very hard marketing in some ways because you are only creating the value with essentially your marketing and your creation. So I bring this up, and I think it helps everyone on the call to think through this is we are all doing this on some level. Again, even if you have a physical product, you're doing this somewhat beforehand. If you're selling something on a website, even a storefront, before they walk in, it's just perceived, right? But anything where we go more into the virtual and digital types of product like this, there's online trainings, there's a lot of stuff like this. It's all that perceived value. However, Amanda, this also brings up an opportunity. Because all that value is intangible, it's a lot easier for you to get your customers to sample and experience it. You don't have the additional fixed costs, right? If the touchless, switchless company wanted a company to, someone to experience it, they would have to, I don't know, send them a switch. They have to go to events. They have to actually have people do the switches. You can do that very easily digitally these days, right? So that's the opportunity we want to focus on. And what you essentially are doing, and you're kind of alluding to this, is what you need to do is you need to build a universe, right? So Star Wars was famous for this. And, now the Marvel content universe, or whatever it's called, right? So I know where you're trying to sell stickers in some of your products, right? To do that, you need to create that universe, right? When Star Wars obviously sold all its merch, first they had the movie, and that's why people bought the merch. So here is a key challenge. This is a How I Made It marketing episode with the CMO of a company called EduShape. I picked it specifically, Amanda, because they're a toy company, so they're vaguely in your market. And she really made that point that the products that are highly differentiated are incredibly successful. This goes very much in line with the uniqueness we were talking about earlier. So we need to see how to differentiate Chatty Dragons. All right. So, and by the way, Amanda, feel free to jump in and talk at any time, and I'll be going through this. So here's what I think you need, and this is what every company needs, but especially for this example, what we call a customer first objective, right? So when I went to the Chatty Dragons website, it's unclear what Chatty Dragons are or how they're different from any other entertainment option, right? Like I said, it looks very visually appealing. I'm not sure what's going on. And one reason companies have this problem, and a lot of companies have this problem, or also sometimes it's clear, but it's not the thing the customer wants, is, right, like you said, doing the thing beforehand and understanding your customer, building a customer first objective. So let's talk about what a customer first objective is. Again, I did my little cheat. I used MechLabs AI. If you click the link at the bottom, you can get the full chat, but I pulled some out. I asked MechLabs AI, build a customer first objective for Chatty Dragons. This isn't perfect, but maybe it gets us 80% there and gives you an idea. I just gave it the website and let it do its thing, right? So the things you want in a customer first objective: 2, right? Buy, and 4. Who do we mean that? 2, what is the service we're going to do for our customers, right? What do customers get from it? So in this sense, in the customer first objective, maybe they're seeking an imaginative journey, right? The space with dragons and fantasies, right? Okay, that's what they're getting. Buy. What's our offer? How are we going to do that for them? So in your case, it's high quality dragon themed collectibles, interactive cards, stickers, engaging content, right? Now, 4, what are we asking them to do in exchange for that, right? We want them to support our community through purchases, subscriptions, and engagement, right? So that could be a general idea of what we want to do with a customer first objective. A mistake, not in this case, but a mistake some companies make, and why we set up the customer first objective, is they'll jump to the 4. What do I want? I want more sales this quarter. That's what I want, right? But no, by stopping and saying the 2 and buy also, right? 2, what's the customer going to get? Buy, how are we going to give it to them? Then we get the exchange. Then we get the thing we want. All right, so let's look at that. Let's take a look at that as an example of our customer first objective. So I said then to, I said, okay, with that customer first objective, what are some marketing tactics I could do? It gave me a lot of them, right? But here's some one I pulled out specifically because, in your first email, it was like, you kind of were a little lost in general of, okay, what should I do with the marketing? So a narrative theme on the website that introduces visitors to a dragon realm, right? That's what we talked about, kind of building in that universe. Creating maybe some short comments about the history and lore of the dragons. An interactive section on the website that were different dragon territories. And those could be linked to different things you're doing, like collectibles and stickers and other engaging things. Maybe some limited edition collectibles. Community building. That's a big thing. Mentions Discord. Maybe there's some other communities. And contests. I know you started with your Design Your Own Dragon contest. Maybe some social media contests and giveaways. So those are just a few of the many, but that's an example of starting with the customer first objective. Now brainstorming based on that objective. We're starting customer first marketing, starting with serving the customer. Now the marketing tactics come from that versus I'm just trying to get a goal. All right. So let's see, what might that look like? So Amanda, I took the liberty, I hope you don't mind, of redoing your website. This is probably wrong and bad in many ways, but hear me out. Here are some things I think, and you can give me your feedback. Um, when I go to that website at first, again, it looks nice, but I don't understand what it is or what I can do, right, if someone just comes across it. So here's, come along as our horde of homeschool dragons discovers new adventures every week, right? I don't know that this is exactly right. Um, there's a reason. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm listening to you. I'll mute myself because I'm
No,
chuckling.
no,
I love it.
it's fine. There's a reason I specifically use homeschooled, and I'm not sure if this is right for your brand. I saw one of your videos. I think it was one of your videos on YouTube, and you were talking about homeschoolers and different things. And so when we're going for that uniqueness, right? Think about there are so many entertainment options for your target audience of, I'm guessing tween and teen girls and around there, right? So sometimes at first, maybe the more you can niche down, where again, it's that blind melon feeling. This is for someone like me. Like, oh, I'm homeschooled too. Like you're niching it down. I don't know if that's exactly right, but that's just an idea of how can you make it feel specifically for them, right? So that grabs their attention. They see what they're going to do there. Now we want to shift that into the engagement, fun folklore fantasy inspired by you, right? So this also pulls into that. I think you were trying to do some in marketing and in business, technically we call this value co-creation, right? Creating value along with your customers. And this was, with like your dragon contest. So again, when they go to the website now, oh, they get, they understand this is kind of something special. It feels like something for me. There's some things I could do. Now, here are the 3 things I can do there. Meet the horde, right? I was looking up with playing with AI and dragon stuff. I think that's what they're called. And this is like the different types of dragons. And as you see what I wrote, it's meant to tap into them. They're meant to see themselves in your characters, right? Do you have anxiety about being perfect? Have a tough time keeping your gigglies to yourself? I am not a 15-year-old girl. This could be way off. But this is me trying to channel what would they be looking for, right? So like, oh, they first see like, okay, I can meet these different characters. I can see myself in them. These dragons are just like you and your friends, right? Separate, explore celestial realm, right? And that was the AI's idea. Maybe there's a little map what's going on. You could tell them all the different things they can do on your website. There's Sticker Mountain and Card Cave, and in the Forge, you can make your own dragon, right? And then lastly, the watch the latest episode, right? And this is something I'm really encouraged in building the universe, and you have to create the content with the characters. So I took your blog post number 12, I put it into AI and I said, hey, write what an episode might be, right? And this in case would be an animated video. An animated video might be more resources you can do right now, but it's an idea of something to move towards, right? So that's an idea of how you could transform the homepage to meet that customer first objective. Someone goes to that homepage and they don't feel like the 2 things you don't want them to feel is, oh, what is a chatty dragon? I don't understand. They look nice, but okay, I'm going to go over to, I don't know, My Little Pony or whatever, right? Or they don't want the thing of like, oh, here's a site that sells stickers. I was trying to sell me something, right? They want the feeling of, this is a customer first place for someone like me. Okay. Now, I wanted to mention about some of your content is what I noticed what you're mostly doing. You have blog posts with no pictures. And I know you mentioned you're a writer. I saw some of your YouTubes. There were human recorded videos, and there were a lot of like pictures of eggs. So it wasn't like actually animated chatty dragons. It was some eggs, and there were some Facebook posts about stickers. And so this is going to be your biggest challenge as a small company, but your biggest opportunity if you can make it to hit. It's not going to be easy. It will take time, but to make it a hit is you need to build that universe around those chatty dragons, right? So this is the page that you build it around, but ultimately this will only work if you can get that content and you can get them to feel engaged with it, right? So when you're saying what we all need to do, what is the right channel and content for your audience? I could be wrong about this, but I'm thinking like tween and teen girls that you're trying to focus on. I don't know that blog posts with no pictures is really the thing that ties them in, especially for very, very visual product. They're called chatty dragons too. So the talking element might be important. So something like YouTube's or TikToks or Instagram Reels. There's something called Webtoon, Tumblr. I don't know the exact thing, but really think, and you're working with your daughter, so you've got that opportunity of tapping in where is your target audience and what type of content is right for them and what type of content is right to communicate your product. If you can't do animated videos right now, and that might be too much, It might be comic books or comic strips or graphic novels or some of these things, but that very visual appealing element that could be memeable for your audience. And the bigger lesson, because I know some people might be watching now and saying, hey, my product isn't animated dragons, my product is a car wash. Or well, I had a few ago, a septic tank company that was doing billboards, right? Um, it's still that same question. What is that right channel and content for your audience? How are you going to tap into them and inspire them? Now, I just want to talk briefly about your this was the ad that you're running in yearbooks, because this is a common challenge I see when you're running ads is you want a dedicated landing page for your ad. If you're going to invest money in an ad, you want there to be such an experience where you go from the ad to the landing page and it's so smooth and so perfect, right? Anytime we're going from one situation to another, there's something, there's a famous writer who came up with this. I forget his name. I want to credit him, but it's called story click, right? And story click essentially was like, oh, okay, we know what's going on. So if you think about it, right? If you are watching a movie and all of a sudden it shifts to San Francisco, right? What happens? They don't just start talking. For a few seconds, they show the Golden Gate Bridge, right? Oh, and it's story click. Okay, the audience gets, oh, now we're in San Francisco. And so what happens when you don't have a dedicated landing page is, okay, I'm seeing this ad here and everyone can read it and won't read it to you, but it's like, okay, wait, I can share my character ID. Okay, let me click and I go. And when I went on my phone, because this is the QR code, it's mobile, it says it's a dragon's world, but it's not your typical dragons. Well, wait a minute. I went here because it said if I've got a character ID, I can share it. And now I go to this page, but it's a dragon's world. I mean, they're both dragons, but where do I share my idea? And wait, it's unfolding every Friday at 3:30, but I don't see anything about that, right? You see what I'm saying? So you don't want to just send them to your homepage. You want to send them to an exact page like, hey, thanks for, coming from the yearbook and sharing your character idea. Here's how you can share your character idea, right? It's direct versus you might get them to go through that page and then you might lose them, right? And then lastly, with user generated content, because that's something you're going for. Um, it's still marketing. It's still a value proposition, right? I interviewed Jimmy Wales. There we are. You can click there if you want to see the full interview. He's the CEO and founder of Wikipedia, right? Probably the most amazing user generated content in the history of the world. And I asked him this question, right? Because it's not just you, Amanda. Big brands, all these companies, we all want user generated content. And I said, what's going on there? And he said, well, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but this is the common challenge. He said, a lot of businesses look at it the wrong way and they say, hey, we want to get some free labor, right? How can we trick people into doing it? And he's like, think about it. Like if you're opening a bowling alley, you wouldn't be like, hey, we need all this bowling to get done. How do we trick people into bowling, right? He said, and this is the part of bowling. Well, wait, what do people want, right? So if you're opening a bowling alley, right, it's a leisure time activity. They want beer and a hot dog and family friendly and league and all that stuff. And so if you're wanting to get, and this is a good idea, the value co-creation, right? If you want to get people, if you want to get these teen girls or whoever your target audience is to create these dragons for you, what do they want? What would make it appealing to them? Think through that, right? So that customer first objective, this one I wrote on my own, now the I, right, would be to help tween girls express their creativity. Maybe that's what they want, right? By, and what are they going to get? You'll build a custom page to highlight their work, right? Plus they get a chance to win. But even if they don't, they'll get a custom page on Chatty Dragons with their work. And they're giving something for it. What are you going to ask in exchange? The time it takes and the trust it takes to design their own dragon and submit it. So if that would be your customer first objective, the ad might look something like this. My PowerPoint slide is not as beautiful as your ad. It's just some words, right? But it might say this, there's a dragon inside you. Show us, and you might win 100 custom sticker packs featuring your dragon, right? So again, this is about them. This isn't about our website. This is about them and what they get. Now, to kind of help make them transition from what they get to what we want them to do, let's give them some ideas, because this is still kind of a vague idea. You're going through a yearbook. I'm designing a dragon. What's going on, right? So we're starting to prompt them, right? Like good writers, like we used to do creative writing workshops, we'd have prompts. It's hard to just write, right? Is your dragon funny, friendly, shy, or adventurous? Can it breathe fire, fly, tell stories, sing, right? It's giving them an idea, and then show us here. Now you have the QR code, which goes to the custom landing page. And it's saying yours might be the next member of the Chatty Dragons horde. And I added that line in. Remember, kids, ask your parents before you enter. Again, I'm not a lawyer. These are children. You got to make sure you're doing whatever's right there. So that gives you a general idea. And then lastly, I just want to give you this encouragement. Here's another episode you're welcome to listen to. This is with the director of social media for Generac. They're a very different company. They make generators. But she said she was giving an example. I saw when I was interviewing her, there was the big Eras poster from Taylor Swift right behind her. So I had to ask her about it. I'm like, what did you learn from that? And then Taylor Swift might be Amanda. I don't know if you're a Taylor Swift fan. And I had the opportunity to meet her early in her career, and which is wonderful. But what she's doing now in her latest tour, you might want to study her. That if instead of getting an MBA, that might be your university because she has figured out how to tap into who your target audience is. And what the biggest thing that this director of social media told me from attending and seeing it and looking at it like a marketer, like a director of social media is, that audience, they want to feel like they're being brought along on your journey. Taylor Swift is a billionaire, billionaire, right? Very famous person, do all these things. But what has she done? She has found a way for a 14-year-old girl to feel like that it's about her. She's being brought along in that journey. And that is what Chatty Dragons is as well. And that's how Chatty Dragons gets successful. I think, Jamil, I think we have Anna Vilabla. I think I saw her on if we're able to promote her. But before we move on to the next one, we only got a few minutes left. Amanda, what do you think?
Thank you so much for your feedback. I do feel a little bit validated, and I did want to tell you that that QR code is to go onto a dedicated landing page for the yearbook ad. So I just need to change the content that's on it, is what I'm taking from what you're saying, is just make it match what the ad says. And then it actually is to track that ad campaign. So I feel like I've done one thing, one
Hey,
thing in a
when I
positive direction.
scanned it. Yeah, when I scanned it, that's where it took me. So just make sure it's going to the right place. That is fantastic. Good job.
Yes. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Absolutely. All right, lastly, Anna, we only got a few minutes left, but I want to give you a few basic ideas. This is a kind of last second insertion. She says, I'm here. I wonder if we are able to promote her. There we go. Hey, Anna, how are you doing today? Can you hear me, Anna?
Yes. Can you hear me?
There we
Oh,
go.
there we
Okay.
are. Thank
Anna,
you.
tell me about Spanish Immersion Rincon.
Yes. So Spanish Immersion Rincon is a small company that I founded back in 2017 in Puerto Rico. Originally, this was an in-person program that I used to do it in Rincon. It's a little town where we have a lot of expats and tourists that move to the area. But during the pandemic, it became more of an online program. So I went and I took all these courses to become an online a course creator. And I launched the program as an actual online program. I created an entire curriculum. I launched the program from beginning to end. And now it's kind of morphed into something called Fast Track Intensive Spanish, which is the program I have right now, my signature program. But what I'm finding is that I've had a really hard time transitioning from to streamline this thing where I can do my webinars and have my landing page to take people through the process. So I do everything one-on-one. I actually, whenever I don't even promote, I don't advertise. So people find me. And then I used to get a lot of leads, but now the leads are not coming as frequently. So this last course that I just launched back in January, normally I have 20 people in the program, and the program only has 6 students. And really originally there were only 4. And so I'm finding that the one-on-one sales are really hard. And I really want to do that. I know all the parts. I'm having a hard time putting it all together, from launching a 30-day launch pad and all those things that are required to do a launch where you can get at least 20 students to enroll in your program, or 50 ideally, or 40. So that's kind of where I am.
That's great. Well, Anna, it sounds like you did a lot of things right in the beginning. So congratulations if you're getting that word of
Thank
mouth.
you.
The thing I saw from your email, and we'll just get a few minutes, but I wanted to point out to everyone, because it's something I think everyone can learn from, is rented land versus owned land. And the thing that really jumped out about me is you say I've created a basic Google Sites page, but it incompletes and lacks some essential components. It sounds like you've got all this great information. And so the only thing I really saw you had was that Facebook page. And it sounds like you're also using other third-party things. And the thing I want to really encourage you is to build a website, right? So when we talk about this idea of rented land versus owned land, I didn't come up with it. John Battelle did. It's a great, great, great example. Don't build on rented land, build on owned land. Rented land is things like Facebook, TikTok, someone else's platforms, all of those things. The challenge with those is the sand can shift underneath your feet, right? Famous example we all just saw it few weeks ago with TikTok, right? It was going to be shut down, right? People had businesses on there, gone like that. The other thing is, Facebook chooses to change its algorithm, whatever. Those are just some examples. You want your own website, your own email list, your own custom AI, if you can. I mean, at least a website, right? And I think you're doing a lot of the right things of having these different elements out there, but ultimately you want them all to point to your website, which, to your point, you got a lot to do, your small business, but you start growing slowly over time. So now when you have word of mouth, there's some place for people to point it to, right? You have that landing page with the word of mouth. You've got some information on there and you're building it all on there. I want you to think of like a hub and spoke approach. We think of that with airports and airlines a lot. There's all of these different cities they can go to, but everything flies through Atlanta, right? Everything flies through the hub, and that's what you need with your landing page and your website. So everything goes back to there. So here's one quick example and one quick thing to get you thinking. It sounds like you've got a lot to work with. You can see the case study in the link at the bottom. This is a Chinese company that taught Chinese, right? So you provide value, right? And everyone really here provides value. And you have to balance what can you give away and what you need to charge for. And that's your point. That would be your funnel, right? So on your website, let's say, for example, there's 10 modules in your course. And it sounds like you're playing with this because you do webinars and stuff. But on your website, on demand, the first module could always just be free. And not just because it's some sales module, but they really learn the three really important things about Spanish or whatever, right? They really learn something. And then they decide, let me click, and let me do the next 10, right? Or not, but it's not for me, but now I have someone to share it with. Or you know what? I took it and I really want my cousin to do this. And my cousin won't listen to me and they're not going to go there. Here, like, cousin, just take this first one. Trust me, it'll be for you, right? Another example, just a blog, like in this Hack Chinese example, they did a blog, but it can't just be a blog about buying a Spanish course or a blog about Spanish. There's a bunch of courses about Spanish. They found their own specific niche and way to talk about it and way to make it very practical. There's some examples on there, but I love that. Like there's one example, ordering food in Chinese, a step-by-step guide and useful vocab, right? So it's taking some of those, which you can use kind of back and forth. You can also use these in your course, in session 3, hey, I want you to go read this blog post, but then it's out there and it's attracting people. And then, as you said, yes, you need to build your road. We call that a funnel, right? You've got your home. Now you build your funnel. Here, I put this in. You can click on the link at the bottom and McLeod's AI say all of it, but it's these general stages of attract, engage, nurture, convert. Those are those important stages too. But comes back to building that website. That's the biggest thing I would encourage you right now, to have that own website and have that own place where everything lives. What do you think?
Daniel, I do have one quick question, because I did build a website, but I built it on Google Sites, and that was one question I have for you. Is Google Sites a good place for a website, or should I have a website like in a different place? Because I'm afraid that Google websites might not be a good source. I do have a full website that I created for my one product, but not like, it's like a landing page kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing, right? But you gotta be careful with that. I mean, one thing, it usually doesn't have that much functionality. Another thing, Google is really known for end-of-lifing things out of the blue. So it would be better to build out to actually get, your own actual website. I mean, I won't tell you which one to use, but WordPress is a very basic one that a lot of companies use very cheaply. I mean, it's a good place to start. There are others too. I won't say any one is better than another. Google Sites is better than nothing, but to start building your business, it's better to have kind of a little more of a solid foundation.
I know we don't have enough time, but is there a way that you can click on that link and just open it just quickly? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So this is that's for one of my programs.
Yeah, so this is a step, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, again, one of the problems to just going to it is, right, it is just the URL itself. Right. You can even set up your own URL. So, I mean, but this is a step. I mean, I think if you were using it, but what you're doing here, right, as we talk about, this is just directly selling them, right?
Right. Yes, that's just like a landing page for that particular product. Yes.
Right. So so this could be a landing page for product, but this isn't Anna. Like Anna's deep knowledge
Oh,
about this topic, where 20% of it is on the site and totally free and it's there. But the
got
other
it.
80%, I want to get through that golden door. So I'm going to talk to Anna. And then again, I would go through with the micro yes approach of some of the other things we talked about. Spanish one-to-one
Yes.
VIP coaching. Yes, it's what it is. But you want to get into some of those other things we talked about. But this is a step. This is a step, but
Great.
I would want to get there to an overall. Here's the homepage for Rincon. Here's the different things we offer. Here's what you can learn, and not that you can build that overnight, but that's why I say it's
Yes.
kind of thinking of an analogy. I have a friend who bought some acreage recently, and there's a barn on it, and it's falling apart. But over time, he's fixed up every month. He does okay. Let me get a better door in there. Let me get a better window, and
Thank you.
that's the little bit you can do every little bit over time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This is so helpful, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to look at my little work in progress.
Absolutely. Good luck to you, Anna.
Thank you.
I mean, we're over time, but before we go, I don't know, Jamil, here's a bunch of free resources, like I said, you can go to. Um, any last questions we have, or should we call it?
Yeah, we've got three questions. One says, is there a difference between a product page and a landing page?
So there can be. I mean, it depends how you talk about it. So a product page can be the landing page for the product. But a product page can also be where you're buying a specific product in an e-commerce store, and there can be different landing pages for different things. So, for example, when we looked at the Chatty Dragons example with the ad, right? So that would not make sense to go to a product page, right? That wouldn't be like, okay, here you go, here's a product. That makes sense to go to a landing page that's paying off what's on the ad. So, some websites would have both things. In an e-commerce store, okay, they have specific product pages. We call them PDP, sometimes product display pages, but they could have a separate landing page that's for a specific offer, right? That there could be 3 different landing pages for offers for that product based on different packages you're selling, right? So there is some overlap, but they are not the exact same thing.
Perfect. Another one here that says, what would be the device purpose for an event planner?
What would be the device purpose?
That's how it reads. This person's anonymous, so I can't really reach out and get more clarity.
Well, I'm not
Um,
not sure exactly what you mean by device purpose, but in general, if you're an event planner, you can go through, do a customer first objective, do the 8 micro yeses, look at your value proposition. You're going to have to answer those same essential questions about what is your unique value proposition in the marketplace. And for an event planner, it might be, hey, I specialized in Northeast Florida small business events or whatever, right? I mean, whatever you see that opportunity. And then it comes down to like, whatever your customer first offer is, which may be like, hey, for people who are out of town, who are looking for venues here, I do a 360-degree virtual tours of properties and can walk through with you or whatever, and for very cheaply or for free, just to, kind of get your business. Um, so that the same fundamentals apply for an event planner as what we talked about here, but it's just kind of narrowing down and answering all the questions that we had in the presentation.
Perfect. And then the last one, I think you actually might have answered it in the chat as well, was just a few people had reached out asking if you would be sharing the slides.
Yeah, I will share my LinkedIn one more time. The easiest way I found to do this is just post them on my LinkedIn. Right after this, I'll make a PDF. There you go. There's my LinkedIn. Just go there and, hopefully by the end of the day today, I'll have all the slides up there and you can see them.
Awesome. That seems to be it.
All right. Well, thank you for everyone attending. Thank you to our host for volunteering today. And I hope that was
Absolutely.
helpful to everyone.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everybody for attending.
We'll see you.
Have a good afternoon.